Barbara takes a break from Burnside to get her own gallery release. Here's your look at the Diamond Select, the gallery PVC statue of Batgirl. Batgirl is Barbara Gordon. A confident young woman is committed to justice as her father, Gotham City top cop Commissioner Gordon. But when her overprotective dad forbids her from joining the force, her admiration of Batman leads her to rebel the way crime-fighting rebels do in Gotham City, by picking up the mantle of the Bat. An exceptional fighter and detective, Batgirl is also unparalleled in her computer skills. With a utility belt filled with batarangs and her own Bat cycle to speed across the city, she pursues justice regardless of whether others, including Batman, wish her to. But Gotham City's criminals are a ruthless and maniacal lot, and every moment she risks her neck. This PVC diorama of Batgirl is based on her appearance in DC Comics. It is cast in high-quality plastic and features collectible quality paint applications. Before we feast our eyes on this purple-clad Batgirl, the first thing we're going to do, a service I'm more than happy to provide you guys, the members of the mob, is to tell you guys how tall the statue stands. Whilst I do that, I'd like to send out a big thank you to the folks over at Diamond Select who were nice enough to send a sample my way. If you are in the market of picking this one up for yourself, you should be able to find Batgirl, the gallery statue, through various online sites. As of course, again, locally driven to comic book stores are not currently open right now. According to my trusty tape measure, though, the gallery statue of Batgirl stands 8 inches in height. And that in centimeters works out to be just a little over 20.5 centimeters tall. Let's pick up the statue, and first, of course, we'll examine the display stand that she stands atop of. She's not removable, of course, you can't take her off the stand. And I was actually trying to place what this is exactly. It can't be simply just the rooftop. And I gotta believe that it's a prison or police precinct that she's standing on top of. It's not a series of buildings. I feel like it's one specific building. Smaller in scale, yes, it's just shrunk down in size so that the Batgirl is standing on top of it. It's kept pretty minimal in the way of coloring, relying only on this kind of brownish gunmetal gray with all these nice little accent areas of black. You can see that they've panel lined, kind of has a real futuristic look, something I would expect to see from Batman Beyond. It's got some really cool looking things like a little tower and stuff like that. Maybe it could perhaps be, like I said, a prison of some sort that she's standing on top of. It makes perfect sense, of course, if she's fighting crime, you would have a display stand that has something to do with crime. Not directly, of course. If we flip the stand upside down, it's pretty hollow. There's not a whole lot of stuff filling that in, other than what could be a little helicopter pad that would land a helicopter on top of that. I'm just using my imagination right now. But yeah, this is just an open area. There's not a whole lot happening for that. Generally, a lot of these PVC gallery statues don't have a lot of meat and potatoes on the underside of the base. It's generally quite hollow, and you really don't necessarily need it. It's, of course, one of the things, if they can keep the cost down of producing plastic, of course, for the base, why make it hollow? Like, why not make it hollow? You obviously aren't going to see it anyways. First thing we'll have a look at is the portrait here of Batgirl, which is a nice looking face. It's very youthful, very playful looking. I like also that they've got a little bit of teeth showing on her opened lips. Nice. It just gives her that little sense of playfulness to her. The face sculpt is generally quite pretty. I did notice on the paint here, when you spin the side of it, she seems a little bit more warmer in the flesh tones around the closer sections of her neck, just between kind of like the chin and the hair. Gets a little bit warmer there. There's a little bit also that carries from the side of her cheek. It's not as light as, say, the front of her face. And I kind of like that there's that little bit of gradient shading where it goes a little bit darker, gets a little lighter in the front of the face, and then if you turn it slightly to the side, you get a little bit more of that warmer color on this side as well. I'm wondering why specifically they did it this way, unless we can maybe imagine that there's a light source that's going up on, like, kind of facing her, so that, again, it would make more sense that it'd be slightly darker on both sides of her head. I mean, it's the only area other than, really, than the yellow that has any additional highlights or lowlights to it. As I said, though, the face sculpt is really quite pretty. They've used a matte black on the cowl, though when you look at the cape, it's more of a semi-gloss, so I like that there's a little bit of a difference of not quite the exact same black. You would also imagine, too, with Batgirl's cape, it would make sense that, of course, it would be made of a different material than the cowl. The cowl is a more denser material, or a cloth material. The cape is something that's going to have a little bit more flexibility to it, that's going to be moving and swaying in the wind, which it definitely does pull off successfully on this statue. But going back again to her face sculpt just for a quick second, I like that they have a little bit of reflection bouncing off the sides of her pupil there. A little bit of dollops of white on both sides. It does seem like her one eye, this eye that I'm pointing at right here, looks a little lower than this side right here. Perhaps we're not quite pulling off a full Shannon Doherty, but it does seem like one eye is just slightly higher than this one right here. It's not jarring enough that it stands and bothers me too much. It doesn't stand out too much, at least. We spin it around and look at the back of the hair. I like that the hair doesn't go in one direction. That can get really tiresome fast. This kind of looks like she's playful and been moving around. The hair frantically kind of sways on both sides. And at one point it kind of branches off. Like it kind of looks like the tentacles of a very chubby octopus. How's that for a description? The coloring on the hair is pretty much kept just to a warm pumpkin orange. She doesn't have any secondary colors added anywhere on there. In fact, again, other than really just her face, which we'll spin it around again, other than just her face that has that gradient of color from the warmer colors to the lighter, fair colors in the middle, she doesn't have any secondary shading anywhere on the statue until we start looking and addressing the yellow here. One bit of yellow we can certainly look at first is the Batgirl of Burnside logo that's on her chest, her jacket here. I've always been a big fan of this design. It's very simple, streamlined, doesn't get overly complicated. You know, looking at it, that it's a Bat logo. And then, of course, in the yellow color, you can instantly put the two and two together to know that this is Batgirl's logo. The paint on this is really quite clean. Yellow can always be a real problem to paint over top of plastic or other existing colors because sometimes it doesn't look like it could have maybe used a second coat of paint. And I feel like maybe just a little bit of the top section could have been sharpened a little bit on the Bat logo. But generally, again, the paint is very clean on this particular piece, especially when we look at things like her utility belt with the side pockets, her gloves, and even her cape. The cape, the gloves, the belts, and the notable thing about the Batgirl of Burnside is the yellow boots with the standout black laces, and then also the black sole. But all of the colors of the yellow are shared with a darker version of itself. So like the pouch, for example, has a more warmer color of yellow that's been added to it. Each of the individual pockets, which again we can look at here on the side, have some additional warmer yellows that have been incorporated into it as well. It just gives, when you add these extra warmer colors, lighter colors and warmer colors, add a contrast and depth to the sculpting that they're doing. And here, like, you really get a lot of that standout sculpt because they are making use of that secondary color. Batgirl at Burnside is clearly one of my favorites of the Batgirl costumes. You probably already know that by now. And this one really executes the design of that costume rather well. Zippers haven't been left off. They've been painted there in silver. The side zippers of her pockets have also been painted in. This would be a top, of course, that would go over top of her pants. It's not a one single piece. The way also, I've always been a big fan of the way that the cape also attaches to the top of the collar. It's sort of pegged in place here. Obviously not pegged in place for the statue, it's all one sculpted piece. But again, I just want to look again at that cape. The cape's got a really interesting design flow to it. It doesn't just shoot out. It has a purpose, it has a plan. It looks like they obviously thought about what they wanted to do. So when we were looking at, for example, even the front of her face had a lighter coloring to the sides of her face, not only do I feel like there's a light source that's coming up this way, though it's really not represented anywhere in the shading of the costume, but there's also, I feel like there's a current, a wind current that's blowing her hair back, and also giving a more dynamic look to this cape. And I really like the design and the way that they handled that. I've never really hidden my love for the Batgirl and Burnside costume. In fact, it is easily my favorite of the Batgirl costumes that she's worn in all of the comics. So yes, perhaps that may make me a little bit more biased towards new statues or figures that are coming out from companies. Yes and no. Yes, I will admit, I prefer this costume being Batgirl in Burnside over some of the stuff that she's wearing now, but it doesn't make for a perfect statue or figure. There's still something that could always be wrong with it, whether it be sculpting or paint. Luckily, I'm not checking those boxes off at all with this gallery release from Diamond Select. I like the pose of it. It's a very playful looking face. Small details like the visible teeth can really add to making the character look youthful and playful in her design. And I'm glad the fact that they had a little bit of visible teeth showing on her face. The paint is very clean. Yellow can be a very problematic color to have to deal with. It either will bleed on to anything that's around it, or in a lot of times, it may look like it's unfinished. Like a company needs to go back and add a second coat of paint. I don't have that issue here with Batgirl. The Batgirl emblem, maybe if anything, could probably have been sharpened up a little bit on the top, around the ears and around the wing of the logo. But other than that, the paint is really quite clean on this particular piece. Again, I like the pose that they put her in as well. It makes her look like she's standing on top of what I can only guess to be a smaller miniature-sized building. I've pinpointed it's probably either the prison or the precinct, but it definitely does look like a smaller building instead of a rooftop that she's standing on top of. She's got some nice vibrant colors, and again, yes, it is my favorite costume of all time for Batgirl, but it still is a nice looking statue release. Smaller in scale, yes. And it's also ideally better suited for your wallet. If you're in the market of picking up a Batgirl at Burnside, for example, and your wallet is saying no, 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 you've just bought a whole bunch of other statues, Gallery definitely is the best route to go because it keeps the cost down that these are primarily produced in PVC plastic. Didn't mean to spit all over you. Keeping them made in plastic keeps the cost down. So if you are somebody that's getting into the market of collecting statues, the best thing you can really start with is gallery statues from Diamond Select because, again, they're made of PVC plastic. They're not made out of resin. They're not things of a higher expensive price point. You could probably find Batgirl here for a modest $30 to $45, give or take. A big thank you, though, to the folks over at Diamond Select who were nice enough to send this sample my way. If you guys, like I said, are in the market of picking up the Batgirl at Burnside, you should be able now to find her through various different online sites. Again, unfortunately, with the state of emergency that we're in right now, going to your local comic book store, no dice. It's not going to happen. But it's not to say that online sites aren't welcoming your business right now. So again, if you are looking to pick up this beautiful piece of Barbara for yourself, check out various online websites, places that sell statues and figures, and you can have definitely one delivered right to your doorstep. If you've managed to pick up this one for yourself, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the gallery statue of Barbara in Burnside. Definitely one of my all-time favorite looks of this costume. And Diamond Select, I think, does true justice, no pun intended, to the look of Batgirl here. Also, if you guys are wanting to check out some more reviews on Diamond Select releases, you can check out my playlist, my extensive playlist of all the gallery statues and other Diamond Select pieces that I've looked at over the years, and all future pieces will be there as well. Also, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification, and stay tuned, members of the mob, because there's going to be a whole lot of statue reviews lined up and coming your way. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.